Welcome everybody. Thanks for watching our video about service agreements. We put a comment up last week in John's group just about service agreements in general. Who has them, who doesn't have them, why, what have you found? And we got almost 200 comments on that post, and a lot of people had a lot of different opinions. So we've taken 5 questions from that post, and we're going to answer them. Just to be totally upfront, we have a resource that's going to be available in the comments. You can click that link. It will ask for your email. It will give you this really awesome service agreements all-in-one resource that tells you everything. And if you don't want to keep getting emails, just unsubscribe. So that's out of the way. I'm Kim Matthews. I'm the owner of Scribe Shift Notes, the app, and this is Sam.
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm a chartered accountant and a tax agent, and my business is Jones Co-Advisory. We do tax and accounting for those who provide services in the NDIS specifically.
Yep, amazing. And it's really good to have a specific accountant for NDIS businesses, because there are things that don't come up in any other business inside of the NDIS world. So it's really handy to have an accountant like Sam in the space. And we're both sponsors as well. So you'll see both of us in the group answering questions from time to time or making posts.
It's good to be here.
Great. Let's jump into the questions. So the first question that came up, quite a bit was, do I actually need a service agreement? And we've got a couple of examples of people who have lost money, people who've been just fine. But what's your point of view on that one? Do people actually need a service agreement?
Well, if we're getting really technical, no, but the but is so massive that I would never recommend not having a service agreement.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie. So
it is this, but like the consequences of things going wrong and you don't have a service agreement is absolutely not worth the 5 minutes you'll save by skipping the step. It's so important to have these expectations laid out before starting your services with a participant.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I know there's going to be different opinions about this, but we're going to go through some of those as we work through this this video and these comments. Melly lost $2,000 when the participant said that the service agreement wasn't valid because it wasn't signed, even though they had a verbal agreement. When push comes to shove, a verbal agreement, it just isn't going to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
I feel familiar. I know that's happened to a lot of people. Yeah, agreed. Honeyboo says that they have 13 years with the same participant, no written agreement, no dramas, but this has been food for thought for Honeyboo, reading stuff through the post, because Melanie wasn't the only one who's talked about, losing money or confusion causing, loss of service and that sort of thing. So it's good that it's got people thinking. And then Kristen says that she was asking for months to get the service agreement signed, and it just kept getting pushed back. And then when she raised something around safety, services were totally ceased. So, I mean, it's hard to say whether services would have been ceased anyway, but having a service agreement just makes things like safety, if there are things that need to be in there, makes it clear from the start.
Yeah, it's the best way to start off a relationship with a provider-participant relationship. So many issues that come up, whether disagreements, misunderstandings. It would have been solved. It wouldn't have been an issue if they had that discussion around the service agreement when they started their services.
Yeah, and I guess it's people want to get started and they want to work with participants, but having those boundaries in place is probably a worthwhile thing. I'm just looking through our guide here because it's got a lot of great info, and one of the things it says is a service agreement actually required? Well, no, it's just for SDAs. Is that correct? It's not required for everyone else in terms of what the NDIS says?
Yeah, if we're getting technical, yes, it's 100% required for an SDA. There's no buts about that. With every other service, yes, technically you don't need it, but I would never recommend someone to skip that step.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. Agreed.
j-
I
just
mean,
just
the
on that,
NDIA does recommend, but they don't mandate, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, like it's, I, I think as service providers we should have that mentality anyway. That mentality that compliance is good for the business and not a burden.
Yeah.
You got to think of the long term consequences of skipping these, you know, maybe tedious compliance steps, but just think
Yeah.
how much time and trouble it will save in the long run.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Jumping into question two. Um, aren't they just written to protect the support worker? What do we think about that?
It's written to protect the support worker, but it's not just written to protect the support worker. It's just as important to protect participants as well. Uh, I believe that providers and support workers should all be very aware of what should be contained in the service agreement, but it's just as important for participants and um, you know, parents and caretakers to understand what should be in a good service agreement as well.
Yeah, because it's not. There's no one document that the NDIA sends out and says, "Here, this is the service agreement. You must comply with this." It's a living document. It's dynamic. You can update it, change it, tailor it, put it in plain language. It doesn't have to be legal speak. Um, and I'll just read a couple of comments. Motivated Goose is a participant who now writes their own service agreement and asks providers to incorporate their requirements. So, this is a way that participants can take back control of that process potentially. Some people won't want to, some people may not be able to, but there are others who can and want to. So, why not? Why not have your what you needed as a participant in writing ready to go and hand it to the support worker and say, here's what the go is. Let's work on this together to get it right for both of us. I think that's a really interesting and new approach.
Yeah, I love that. Motivated Goose, was it?
Motivated
Is that right?
Goose. Yeah.
Motivated Goose. Yeah, I love what Motivated Goose is doing there because so often when your participant or a provider mentions an issue that they're having, well, the first thing I ask is, well, what is in the service agreement? Because there's a lot of flexibility in how um, the rules apply to each participant. So obviously, it's you know the law is the law, the rules are the rules, but there's that flexibility in what the participant wants. Like, for example, different rates
Hmm.
for what's going to be the travel reimbursement rate. Will well, there's so many things that um,
Yeah.
need to be clarified in the service agreement that there's no black and white answer for.
Even something that I do see come up quite a bit is as the rates tip over into evening rates. Now, for you as the support worker, you might be like, yeah, that makes sense. After 8 p.m., we're on evening rates. But if you haven't discussed that with the participant and then suddenly you're charging an additional amount of money and they were under the impression that you were working for, say, $65 per hour flat rate, if that's not made really clear and discussed up front, then that's going to cause friction and possibly be enough to end a relationship as well.
Yeah, that's so true. You could have done, as a provider, you could have done nothing wrong, aside from not discussing it with the support worker, with sorry the participant, and you could be accused of doing, in that situation, the participant could accuse the support provider of overcharging or over invoicing,
Yeah,
when in
yeah,
reality they're just charging standard evening rates, but the
yeah.
participant They don't
If
see it that way. They don't understand it.
no, if they didn't agree to that, and it wasn't discussed, then yeah, it's not okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
a whole lot of problems can come about through miscommunication or non-communication. With it, there's not necessarily um, any malice or bad feelings, or someone's trying to take advantage of someone else. It's just lack of communication. So this is essentially your first communication document that you really need to go through everything. Davida Soma has been a support worker for 9 years, independent, and she gives every client a folder with service agreement, code of conduct, privacy. She gives them a week to read through it and then sits down and discusses it with them. And that's we're looking at best practice there. Um, that's giving people real time and space to figure out, does this have everything in here that we need? Um, and you're not putting the pressure on the person holding your phone out saying, sign this. Um, I like that. Good on you, Davida. I'm working through two documents at the same time here, so forgive me. Uh, what should actually be in it? I need to go back to my previous page. What should actually be in it? So, non-negotiables would be things like a cancellation policy, which goes both ways. This got brought up a lot as well, both ways. So, if you're the support worker, you're going to put in there the way that you're going to communicate if you're sick, how you're going to let the person know, what kind of notice you're giving for holidays when you take time off, all of those things. It's not just about when you cancel on me because you're sick, participant, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars. It's not just about that. It needs to be a two-way street so that everybody knows what's happening. Confidentiality, the complaints process, and a cease of services process as well. So we've got a really good, coverage of that on page 5 of our resource. So I really encourage everyone to grab this resource because it explains service agreements really well. What else could be in or should be in a service agreement from your perspective, Sam?
Or I think everything you covered. Um, you can put um, whatever it is that you and the participant want in the service agreement, but nothing that you put into it can trump what the NDIS rules are.
Yep.
So if you want to have a discussion on something with the participant to have a peace of mind on a topic, that's fine. If you ever put anything in there that contradicts what the NDIS rules are, doesn't matter if it's signed by both parties, stamped, dated, it's it it won't be
It's not going to stand
enforceable if
up.
it's not, yeah, if it's not in line with the NDIS rules.
Yeah. So um, like long cancellation clauses. Some people I've seen
That's a
over the years,
perfect
and some
example.
people, yeah, putting in like a month cancellation of services, for example. That's not going to cut it. It's a 7-day maximum for support providers, isn't it?
Yep. Good luck arguing that one with
Yeah,
the NDIS.
yeah, yeah. I think some people have put longer periods of time, and maybe if you're a different business outside of the NDIS, that might be fine, but inside this space, it is maximum 7 days, and that's flexible as well. Just because it says maximum 7 days in the NDIS guide does not mean that you have to charge that. You can come to the agreement that both of you feel is fair. Got a few comments there. I might skip over those ones. Oh, Carla James does a self audit once a year, which I love. She updates everything, emergency contact, allergy, service agreements, all at the same time. So she goes right through and makes sure that she has the most up to date information. That's really good. Haley, she has a service agreement, code of conduct, privacy, media release, cancellations, travel expenses, schedule of services, and it sounds like she's all over it as well. So there are people who, are independents who are able to get all this stuff together. I know it's a lot initially, but it's worth it because that, like Haley's in particular, that covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here we are. Favorite topic. What's the GST thing that people keep mentioning in the comments? What is this thing with GST and service
Yes,
agreements?
yes. So one of the requirements for service providers to have um, their income from the NDIS as GST free is for there to be a written agreement between the provider and the participant confirming the service. So obviously, the easiest way to do this is through a service agreement. It's like problem solved. Don't have to dig any deeper into the technicalities. Um, if you don't have a service agreement, there's it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have the GST status because the GST free status. Sorry, because the rule is you need a written agreement. Um, but it's just best not to go down this path of getting into
Yeah,
technicalities and you'd be like, oh, an email is a written agreement or an invoice
a
can count as a
text.
written agreement. Yeah, a text is like if you want to take the time to argue that with the ATO, like you might win, you might not, but it's just not like just have your service agreement and it's not an issue.
Yeah, yeah. Have the service agreement as recommended, not mandated by the NDIA. There's a reason they're recommending it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that came up quite a bit, and I think it's one of those things that maybe nobody's ever actually seen in practice. I know we talked about it before, and you've never seen it actually happen, but I'm confident
Yeah,
somebody in the comments is going to tell us a story where it's happened.
yeah. I'm sure someone somewhere um, has had their GST free income denied or the treatment of that denied. So let us know if that's ever happened to you. I'll be interested to hear.
Yeah, put it in the comments. Okay, so yeah, thanks for people bringing that up. I mean, it's worth being aware of, but a simple service agreement will alleviate that stress for you. Um, okay, the next one that came up, a couple of people asked about this. Aaron and Alan, in particular, asked about this. They said, "But Sam, how do I actually have the conversation with the client about a service agreement? So how do we bring this up?" Um, I've got an example that I will read out. Hey, Sam, I'm putting a service agreement together to keep everything clear for both of us. So, what I'm doing is cancellations, travel, invoicing, and it's going to keep things professional and it'll protect you as much as it protects me. Can we go through this together?
Beautiful,
Done.
fantastic.
Right.
I wouldn't feel intimidated or threatened or maybe threatened is the right thing to not feel. Um, but if we are upfront and professional and um, we don't make it look like it's going to be a huge compliance burden for the participant. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of participants have felt overwhelmed from so much compliance and reading and
Yeah.
difficult legal sounding documents. If we just approach it in a friendly, easygoing way and we have the agreement written in plain English, I believe participants will see that as um, it'll make your services seem professional and that you're taking the time to do things correctly, which will give them peace of mind and confidence in your services.
Yeah, I agree. You're not a wing and a prayer provider. You're actually doing all the things you're meant to be doing. And I think there's a bit of anxiety around, like, oh, what if I've been working with the participant for ages and suddenly I'm bringing this thing to them? But I think most people are fairly reasonable, and especially as Sam says, make it easy for them. Bring a copy of it, print it out if you can, to talk through. Don't just hand them your phone and say, here, read this quickly and then sign it. Like, actually take the time to sit down, talk through it, make sure they're happy, and then go away and amend it if you need to add things in. But don't make it seem as though you've only got 30 seconds to read and sign it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And one thing we didn't talk about is Insurance. Your insurance isn't going to be voided if you don't have a signed service agreement, but it is certainly going to add a level of complexity that you don't need if you're making a claim, because if you're making a claim, something terrible's happened probably. So that's another reason. And I think both sides of the fence want to know that, insurance is covering them, and if something happens, it's going to be an easy process. So don't make it harder by not having a service agreement. That's my point there. And Stevie Hume made a lovely comment. Being a new independent support worker, she really values the posts and stuff that we've been putting up and the information sharing. So we're going to keep on doing that, because we've been doing it anyway. And as sponsors of the group, it's been actually really fun to jump in and be able to offer something and, put these posts up and have a really great conversation underneath. I think people have been really helpful and in pushing back and offering opinions. So we're going to keep doing that. And the next one we're going to do is
I can't remember what the question was. What was it?
End of
Was I
financial
going to
year.
announce it? Oh, yes. End of financial year.
End of financial
Favorite
year.
time of
Yeah,
the
we're going to
year.
do it
Yeah.
end of financial year longer video, where Sam will be doing most of the talking and I will be not talking very much and asking questions for a friend. And we're going to cover off everything that an independent support worker needs to think about for the end of financial year tax stuff. So keep an eye out for that in the next couple of weeks. We're going to gather some questions.
Yep. I've had a few people reach out with just random questions. Please, if you got any questions about tax accounting, reach out, send me a message. Always happy to help when I can. Or if you have any questions or things you want us to discuss in this end of financial year video, please reach out. It would be great if I could guide the discussion around the things that people are specifically looking for. Obviously, I have quite a good idea based on my conversations with clients, but yeah, if there's something you're really interested in, please let me know, and hopefully we can touch on that as well.
Yeah, awesome. I think it'll be good. We did one last year. I did it with a different accountant, and it was a lot of people watched it and got a lot out of it. So, yeah, if you're feeling anxious about end of financial year, you're not sure, you haven't chosen your accountant yet, or any of that stuff, yeah, jump into that one. It'll be much longer, and we'll do a resource as well. And of course, Sam's available for all your tax stuff. If you need, I'm sure you have a intake form on your website. We'll put a link. It'd be
Get rid of
great.
me doing that wink. I regretted that.
Yeah, sorry, can't.
Live and learn.
You live and learn. Yeah. So that's it. Don't forget to grab the resource. It is genuinely really good. I'm going to put a service agreement from Scribe shift notes in there, because we have an auto template in there that fills with client information once you put it in. It's very quick. So I'm going to put that there so people can have a look. If you want to have 14 days free of Scribe, go in there, get all your service agreements done, and then never use it again. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, I'll put my link there as well. But that's it. That's it until our next post. So leave comments and we'll get everything together for end of financial year.
Cool. Hope this was
Done.
helpful. Keen to hear from
Did we-
you guys in the comments.